Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the President and Board of Trustees as the Committee of the Whole. Can we have roll call, please?
Trustee Donnesberger.
I'm here via the phone.
Great. Trustee Sveska.
Present.
Trustee Gazas.
Call
Here.
him later.
Trustee Eck.
Here.
Trustee O'Laughlin.
Here.
And Trustee Saldana.
Here.
President Wittenberg.
Here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just have a short message tonight. I would like to thank everybody for coming. I know everybody's extremely busy right now, starting out the new year and getting started with all of our fun activities in the village. It's crucial that we review and align our highest priorities this evening with the board, staff, administration, and our residents. Together, let's chart a course of success and achievement this year through shared goals, open communication, and a focus on continuous improvement with an empowered staff and energized culture. So with no more further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Gavin.
Thank you, President Wittenberg. I want to go through update you on the priorities that are presented at the September 7th Committee of the Whole, our first Committee of the Whole, and then look forward to the next phase of this effort, new priorities, and have the rest of the staff talk about some of the priorities. I did all the talking last time because I didn't have a lot of the staff that's here tonight. So I'm going to share the wealth. But just put together this presentation for you. It has a lot of detail in it. There's a lot of information here. I understand that. But I'm just going to hit on some of the highlights. And then this is a living document. It'll change and grow with us as we go through some of the achieving some of these priorities and taking some of the action steps that are listed here.
Jim, you want one?
Sure. I'll go to school.
In there in the back. Okay. Excuse us.
So this first slide, our aim is still to be a trusted partner, a provider and partner for municipal services. And you'll see that the activities and the priorities presented here are aligned with that vision and aligned with these values of transparency, efficiency, and accountability that I introduced at the last meeting. On the next page, we've got the steps that I went through as I was orienting myself to the community and to the village and our operations, and as everyone was on their way out the door. I learned a lot about the ongoing projects that we've been working on, as well as the community aspirations in these early meetings in my early days here. And that kind of directed where I looked for next steps. And a lot of that was taking place in conversations with you individually, but as well as participating in the committee meetings and in the board meetings, and meeting with staff and with growing our staff and our leadership team here. In the second phase of reviewing and assessing, some of this again, was impacted by turnover, but as people were leaving, they did do me the favor of transferring of a lot of knowledge in those few weeks that I got to work with Andy and with Justin, and got to know some of what the challenges were, some of what's been tried before, and how those things were being received. And then again, on the short-term planning and strategy and tactics, I presented on that on September 7th. And that was prior to Matt arriving to lead the police department and prior to Joe arriving to lead Public Works. And some of it reflected past priorities that had been around in the village for years, some of which have changed since we have new leadership, and some of which we've made adjustments to. And that includes the new leadership from the board. So on the next slide, we talk again about some of the things that where we're heading, more future oriented. We have hired a new police chief and a new assistant to the police chief. Matt began in October. Eve began just a few weeks ago, but has already, together they've already made a lot of changes in the operations in the police department. They've found a lot of new opportunities and ways to upgrade the police department and the activities that they're doing. We have a new Public Works superintendent who has hired a new crew leader, Brian Rebellis, who is not here but has already made an impact, a positive impact on our organization. We are currently recruiting for an assistant to the village manager. I've gotten several quality resumes. We're going to start those interviews next week. This new team is empowered. They're willing and eager to better the organization, better their departments, and achieve a lot of good things. So I'm excited by their level of professionalism, their level of dedication to improvement. We're getting to a point where we're understanding the departments that we lead, and we're understanding what the current operations are and what the needs are. So that's really going to lead us to more progress as we continue doing that. And then that last step, the short-term planning, strategy, and tactics, is where we're at tonight and what I am presenting to you. And I want, as we go through these, we're not going to get too deep into the details, but they're all here in the presentation. And I want you all to think, what is it that's missing from the lists? What is it that could be adjusted, improved, moved up or down the list? I didn't bring the full long list, but I do want you to know, as every time we're having a conversation, every time we're at a meeting, we're all writing down, and they would like this and they would like that, and we're putting that on the list, and we're constantly looking at the longer master list, if you will, and deciding, some things that need to be moved down to make room for higher priorities that have come up in the meantime. But we're always, like I said, paying attention to what is important to you, the board, what's coming up to the community, and those conversations are very helpful. So I want to keep having those. Visiting the action item status, the top priorities that I brought to the September 7th meeting on this page were and that's page 5. There's very faint numbers down on the bottom right. But these were the top 3 items in each of the areas at that meeting. And I just want to talk about the crossed off items, some of which have been achieved, some of which have been discarded. It might be too strong a word, but have been moved down the list. How's that? As far as administration, I mentioned in that top corner, discern the replacement of the open FTE, and that was when Andy left. That opened up a full-time equivalent position, and that's going to be filled by an assistant too for the time being. And you'll see under the finance column, we do need to look at how we're going to replace all the work that Helia has been doing for the organization for a number of years when she leaves on May 24th, 2024. But that's going to, I'm thinking long-term about that, and we're already preparing for that transition. But we're able to cross off that discernment because we have a plan. We're implementing that plan, like I said, beginning next week. Moving to the right, planning and zoning, outsourcing the building permit process. I've decided that we're actually able to keep up with it, and when I do fill this position, that person, I'm looking for somebody with the skills that will be able to manage that process and administer the building permit process and keep us above water without having to purchase a big software package or outsource that process. I think we'll be able to do that. Right now it's pretty quiet, which is normal at this time of year, but I do think once we have a new full-time staff person in, that they'll be able to manage that process, and we won't need to outsource that. And that's one of those goals or priorities that was handed off to me, that I inherited from the previous administration, but I think we can set that aside, at least for now. The budget review and update, we're in the process of doing that at a staff level. Next week, we're meeting with the Finance Committee, and we'll talk more about the budget at that time and specific line items. But and I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail a little later. Under the police, the top one was hiring and onboarding a police chief. We're done with that. We have onboarded Matt Walsh, and he's off to a good start, and I'm happy with that. And we have done the same with leadership in the Public Works Department. As I said, Joe's been phenomenal there, and he's building his team as well. Excuse me. The others on the list, well, there is, let me go down under Public Works. The engineering RFQ, we did put that out. We got 4 responses back. 2 of them were our current engineers, Strand and Thomas Engineering. And I kind of feel, and I haven't talked about this with the Public Works Committee, but the feeling is there's so much institutional knowledge from those teams at Thomas and at Strand that abandoning them right now wouldn't be good, because Joe and I and his whole team are relatively new as well, and we need that institutional knowledge and that continuity. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to move that off this top priority list. The pump house and road program, the 2023 road program is done, and it was successful. They were able to get all the work in before the winter settled in, and the pump house is on pause right now just because they finished that first phase. We had to shut off the water and got the work done around there. The generator is in place and will be hooked up and all that work done later in the spring. So there's really nothing going on with the pump house right now, except a new fence that went up today around the generator to keep people from touching the generator. Safety. Which brings us to where we're heading in 2024. Excuse me. These are our top 5 goals in 6 areas, and And each of us have come up with a lot of other goals, but we wanted to be able to focus on some here and not get too lost in the weeds. And I'll have Daniel talk a little bit about the administration goals. Joe, of course, will talk about the public works goals, and Matt will talk about police. And I'll cover human resources, community development, and finance. But again, this is just the immediate term goals, the ones we're focused on right now. But as you'll hear, there are other goals and other things we'd like to accomplish in this new year. With that, I'll hand it off to Daniel to cover some of the administration priorities.
Yes, so there are a variety of administrative policies for the village going forward this year. Like Gavin had previously mentioned, we are currently in the process of actively recruiting a village assistant to the administrator, and there are a number of quality candidates, and interviews are slated to begin next week on the 5th, so it'll be very exciting to get some new leadership and new ideas for the village. Also, regarding the grants and partnerships, the reason that the village placed so much emphasis and priority is to take advantage of other revenue sources to rely less on the property taxes like we had discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting. With that in mind, Gavin, Amy, Joe, and the variety directors have partnered closely with Lexipol to apply for federal, state, county, and foundation grants to align for the goals for 2024. So there are some grants that we have applied for, and then there are some that we are currently in the process of preparing for. So first we have our MWRD engineering support for stormwater analysis, and then next we have our Intergovernmental Risk Management Agency body worn grant, and IRMA is really helpful for co-oping and help assisting along the village with risk viability and those activities. And the IRMA body worn camera grant will serve as a retroactive reimbursement for BWC equipment. And then third, we have our Motorola Foundation grant for elderly services, and this will help assist with acquiring an officer to help assist with those elderly services, and that summarizes the grants that we have applied for. Next, in terms of grants and partnerships that we have prepared for, we are currently in the process of resubmitting our COPS grant for law enforcement officer training. And then next we have requested county support for emergency preparedness plan creation. I know that's a pretty important priority to consider for this type of community. And then next, Gavin and Amy Joe have partnered with Lyons Township to utilize sections connected to aging care. So this is similar to our Motorola Foundation grant. And then lastly, on a communications side, we have prioritized a number of things. First, we want to either continue or improve our social media outreach programs and integration of new technology and programs. I know we are currently using Simplicity and Civic Plus and Civic Newsletter, but there's also the e-flash announcement, which should play a greater role in the future. And then in terms of our website, we have received a number of feedback from internal and external stakeholders, and right now we have short-term design updates for this year, but by 2025, we hope to redesign the process to make it more user-friendly and have better interface in that area. So,
Thanks, Daniel. On to our finance priorities, and working with the Finance Committee, we'll be developing the 24-25 budget, and we're, as we discussed at our last committee meeting, it's not purely zero-based budgeting. I didn't start at zero, but I am going through line by line and assessing whether each of the lines continues to add value to our overall budget and get us further along towards our priorities and our vision for the village. And I'm doing my best to align each of those line items with our priorities. So it's more like priority-based budgeting. It's kind of a combination approach. And then a big item that we've been discussing a lot, both at the committee and at the board meetings and in between committee meetings and board meetings, is whether or not to finance the pump house. And we will be talking a lot about that on Monday at the committee meeting. And Spear municipal advisors will be attending the meeting and talking with us and answering every single one of the questions that you all have.
Everyone, huh?
Yeah. I don't know exactly what they're going to answer, but they are going to give an answer.
Please put the grant study on the agenda because that's certainly part of our budgeting process as well.
Which
Conversations we just had
Okay.
in regards to possible financial impact on obtaining grants relative to items that are being budgeted.
Okay. And later tonight, I'll get into some more specifics about some of those grants. Going on with finance, as I mentioned earlier, we will have to replace Helia either through staffing or through outsourcing or possibly shared services. That's one of the areas that I'm really looking closely at as to whether we can accomplish what we need to finance-wise with shared services. She will be leaving in May, but we're going to go through a process where we review all of our processes, and I'm going to bring somebody in from the outside to review those and look at those processes and see if there are best practices that we could initiate that fit our organization and understand what processes we have been using. So that study will go a long way towards identifying what direction we need to go with that. And of course, I will involve the Finance Committee in those conversations. Then another item that I've brought up a few times is adopting financial policies, and I'll be bringing a fund balance policy, an investment policy, reviewing the investment policies and the purchasing policies, because some of our investment policies would limit what we're able to invest in beyond. There are tighter restrictions than there are in the state statutes. So I don't recall right offhand what year the investment policy was adopted, but it's been a number of years, and it's probably time to review that again with this board. So we'll bring that, and that I think fits in with the financing discussion too, because of one of the goals that has been talked about is getting more return on our monies from investments. So we may have to adjust the investment policy in order to achieve that goal. But we have definitely talked about the fund balance, and I will be bringing that policy to the meeting on the 8th. And then finally,
And that, just to
go ahead.
reiterate, and that includes, you're looking for some alternatives for investments of the funds we have available. Is that what I heard you say?
Basically. That was in the blank space I left there at the end of that sentence, but yes. And then finally, purchasing budget software. That's been a goal for a number of years, and it is needed. And that's Helia is going to be instrumental in kind of identifying, based on our needs, what is the right package for that. Community and economic development priorities. Can you still hear us, Eileen? Are you there? So under community and economic development, I've put planning and zoning in there, as well as code enforcement and some of the economic development activities around business attraction and retention, trying to attract something to the corner of Joliet and Wolf for the planned unit development that was approved, but the car wash did not happen, so we need to revisit that and actively, in collaboration with the owners there, market that property and try to get somebody to invest in that and develop that in a responsible and reasonable and appropriate for our community way. But just going down the list, we have talked for a number of years about reviewing the zoning code, updating the building and property maintenance codes, and I will talk. There is a grant, technical assistance grant that could help us with that, and then we've had a lot of discussions at the Economic Development Committee table about how do we inspire the existing businesses to come together, to network, to build some inertia on, and how do we get them to talk to us about their needs and what they need from the village in order to thrive. And we tried the business breakfast that didn't get a lot of response, so the committee is really looking hard at how do we build the relationships with the business community and get them to show up for these things and to reach out and partner with us. So I've laid out some ways that we can approach that. Again, with the work of the committee, and the committee is very enthusiastic and very engaged in this, in accomplishing that goal. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Matt, to talk about the police department priorities.
Okay, thank you. Police priorities for this year is obviously staffing. We've been down an officer, at least an officer and a half, for about a year. We're trying to hire one. We're currently working through the lateral list. We're on candidate number 5. Started the background. Hopefully this candidate is very interested. Hopefully that gets through the process and we can onboard the individual. I also had spoken to Gavin and the mayor before about adding more part-timers, because part-timers really help us fill the gaps when we don't have the people that we need. So I was going to do that, as well as make it palatable. I was going to talk about possibly an increase for them based on what other agencies are giving their part-timers, so we can retain them and keep them. As far as scheduling and addressing overtime, currently, if somebody called in and we were already over what I consider the minimum, they were hiring back. That practice has ended. They will go with the minimum. I won't divulge what the minimum is, but that's what the directive is out there, and that's what's going to happen. The amount of savings, I can't guess on that right now, but it will save us a few dollars. As far as the cameras, the license plate readers, and surveillance cameras. Wolf's Head Plaza gave us permission to put a camera in. Flock is going to started the process to do the install, so that should be in shortly. Also, Flock notified me that IDOT has approved their first permit. That was for Naperville. So hopefully they all start falling into place and we can get the 2 that we requested through IDOT approved and get the cameras in there as well. Body-worn cameras. We have the body-worn cameras. However, talking to some of the officers, the training was read the manual and kind of mess around with it, and that was it. I have to reach out to Cook County. I know they use different cameras, but I want to find out how they train their officers. I also want to find out if I can get certified to train our officers, or if I got to bring Motorola or somebody in to certify. But we have to get this done. It's a requirement to get the body-worn camera grants. We have to have certificates, so that's something I've been working on this week. Adjudication process and prosecution. Eve went out, my assistant went to Payless Park, a like-sized community, sat down with them. They have brought in some more violations to the local court, including speeding and other things. So I'm going to have to go out and meet with the chief out there, Joe Miller, and find out how they did that, because I was always under the impression that movers could not be brought into court, but if they can, I'd like to bring them here. So that's something that I'll be working on. Truck enforcement, something that we could bring into court here, as I discussed with you before, because it's a fine. If we were to grab somebody with overweight truck, we'd have to hold them until they went to court, which is not right, but we can't accept bail anymore. So if we can bring it into our admin court, we can write a violation, the citation, and then we can send them on their way. Quicket, I'm not ready to say either way whether it's good or it's bad. We don't know enough about it. We're trying to evaluate between Capers and Quicket, but also Payless Park uses LexisNexis to do some of their stuff. So I want to evaluate that, and we'll find out which is the best use and the best one for us, and I'll make my recommendation. We'll see what, we'll make a determination then. Updated policies and procedures. I've had 2 webinars with Lexipol, Eve and I, and Steve, and we have 2 more coming up, and they're showing us how to take our policies and edit them. They don't do the policy. I have to do the policy, or have somebody in the department do the policy, but they taught us how to edit it so I can get it out, get it to the officers. As I told you before, the last time any policy was updated was 2019. A lot has happened since then with the Safety Act and everything else, so I just got to make sure the laws are current and make sure the officers are working with good policies and good procedures. I met with, as far as meeting with other municipalities, I've met with Burr Ridge with Chief Madden, and I've met with Cook County. Those are our 2 nearest schools about a response plan. I have not met with the high schools, but I met with the closest schools because arguably we'll be the first ones there. So Cook County said that there's a box. If you call communications, they'll give us a code so we can get into the school. Chief Madden is working with the school there to see if he can get us some type of way to access the school. They access it through their IDs right now. He just has an ID to let them in the door. If he does that, if he can get us individual passes so they know who's in the school and who's not, or some other way so we can access the school in the event we have to respond. Sharing of resources, I talked to Chief Madden. We're going to talk a little more about that, but we're talking about possibly sharing a court call, because most of their calls go to, does that DuPage? Yeah. Most of theirs go to DuPage. Only a fraction go to Cook. If we can share the same prosecutor, maybe we could save a lot of money. So it's something we talked about. Task forces. Something I had to budget for. MCAT and South Suburban Major Crimes Task Force, their fees are going to go up a little bit, but they're invaluable to a community like us, so that's something I'm going to have to budget for. I was also contacted by Cook County 2 nights ago. They would like us to consider joining the high-intensity drug trafficking area unit. I'm going to go talk to them sometime next week, hopefully next week if they're available, and see what the benefit would be for Indian Head Park. That's what I have. there's more, but it's under priorities.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thanks, Gavin. On my list, I have develop a capital plan. We met with Strand Engineering last week to go over water main and go over what needs to be replaced and go over like a plan of order of what we should do. I also know we're trying to get funding for Joliet Road and Roofers Road
Through federal appropriations.
So that's on our list as well. Also in the capital plan, you know, roads and crack sealing, which I'll touch on that. We have a road program slide there. I'll touch on that a little bit more. Next is implement a forestry management program. We're going to finish our tree inventory. Wolf Road's going to be done. Some of the things I'd like to see is a trimming cycle program, like maybe a 3 to 5 year program, so we don't just kind of trim here, trim there, but like have zones and kind of have a cycle so that we're staying up on maintenance for our trees. And then also we'll have a removal and a planting program, and we want to stay in the Tree City USA. Staffing and training development. Gavin said our recent hire, Brian Rebellis, as our crew leader. He's been here almost 2 weeks, already making a difference, lightening the load for me. It's been great. Very motivated. As far as training goes, he's going February 20th to get his Class C water operator license. It's a 10-week class, and then he has to take the test. Other training, certified arborist class starts in March. I'm going to take that to go get my arborist certification. IRMA has a tailgate topics spot on their website. You can print off these sheets and do like monthly topics, public work topics, and just kind of stay current on what's going on. And I think that's a good idea. So I've implemented that. I started that in January, so we're going to do monthly sit down with the guys and just kind of go over various public work topics and stay on top of that. And with that being said, we do have an IRMA OSHA compliance on April 4th coming through to kind of go through all of our buildings and find our shortcomings, and we'll fix that as we go. Stormwater management. Gavin and I have been in talks with our engineers, MWRD, and our board members for evaluation. It's kind of an ongoing. So hopefully we'll be able to find some help there and move forward with that. Road program, we're meeting with Thomas Engineering tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to go over the streets to determine long-term plan. And in conjunction with that, we're going to plan it in accordance with our water main changing, just so we want to do the infrastructure first before we do the streets, obviously, so we're not tearing up brand new roads with bad water main. So we're doing that. And then just on a side note, what I've been trying to do is do an inventory of what Public Works has, parts, materials, and assess our aging fleet, and basically focus on organization structure, documentation, and accountability.
One of the items that we had previously had for Public Works was something that we'd put aside for essentially 6 months while we were going through all of these staffing changes, and that was a review of the 3 buildings and the adequacy of the buildings to meet the village's needs. This building, the Public Works building, and the library. And that was a review that we had just briefly started and put aside while staffing was changing, and so that's a priority item that we want to put back on the list pretty high up.
The final area that we wanted to talk about tonight was community programming. And we're looking to develop some specific goals in a collaborative process. What I've noticed is what comes up a lot, and at meetings is the question of, well, how much input have you gotten from the public on this? What do they say their needs are? So we're looking at doing surveys and community meetings. We could use Wolf Road as a template, because we're getting a lot of input on that. Other, programming might not be as people might not be as incentivized as they are to talk about Wolf Road, but I think if we can make the effort, we'll get a lot of feedback on to understand the needs, and maybe one goal would be to have a strategic approach to what programming we bring to the community, how we do it, what our target audience is, and all of that, and what our goals are with so that we're not just kind of ad hoc. Let's do oh, go ahead, Eileen, did you? Oh. Okay. I think is that off? Wanted to kind of understand community needs, and then schedule regular programming. We did the luncheon with Aging Care Connections here, but we kind of get on a schedule, kind of like the tree maintenance program or the road program, where we're doing a regular luncheon or meet and greet event that brings programming, and we can tie this into a lot of the work that the police department is doing on their community engagement activities, with the fraud prevention seminar they had. But get these on a calendar, and then include the special events like the spring fling, the Halloween celebrations, car shows, and all of this is in conjunction with the special events committee and the communications committee. And it ties back into some of the outreach that Daniel was talking about earlier. So that kind of sums up our goals, our priorities. But are there any questions you all had, or anything you wanted me to put back on the list that slipped off? And the facilities are on the list. We just didn't talk about them.
Just missing someplace. It's
Yeah.
just, I see.
Well, what we might want to do is have that master list printed out and put somewhere. We have this big master list, and the facilities study is on there. It's just not in the top 5 right now. So
It should be in the top 5.
Yeah.
So we'll get the master list too, so
It-
everybody.
Tomorrow at the Public Works meeting, we can discuss priorities in a little more detail.
Yep.
So I'll let you guys figure that out. What goes first and second and all of that.
Thank you.
So as the next slide says, together we're going to prioritize these projects, and we'll continue doing that at the committees and at the board level. Excuse me. And then we'll communicate a lot about what those priorities are, how we're setting them, how we're determining what rises to that level of things that we need to be really focused on and be taking steps towards accomplishing. I'm committed to giving updates at our monthly board meetings, as well as reviewing and updating the goals with the committees, at the committees, and at the committee of the whole, and then tracking progress and reporting back to you all on that. So the next steps will be to review these short-term goals and discuss the resources and the tactics for completing those, and that'll feed into the budget. And then my hope is to get to the point where we're not just looking at the short-term goals, but also at the long term, and we can talk about that more at our committee of the whole meeting in April. But always looking to what is the long-term vision, and how do we get there. And that's my presentation, and like I appreciate you all being engaged in this process and letting me know what your priorities are. And are there any questions? Eileen has a question, but you're not hooked up to our speaker anymore, Eileen. Whoop, did I just hang up on her? Let me see if I can get her hooked back up to that.
You can go, Jim, first.
Are you there?
Hold on one second.
Hang on. I'm just trying to get it connected back to the Bluetooth.
Yeah, the Bluetooth.
It is connected.
Can you hear us?
Okay,
There we
there you go. Now we can hear you, Eileen.
Okay. Well, greetings to everyone from sunny but a little chilly Florida. I just have to commend you, Gavin, on your presentation tonight. I don't know, when I read the slides, what I expected, but you really, in my opinion, did a great job of bringing together everything we've been talking about over the last several months, but bringing it together in a way that we could all understand it and address the issues that we have. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. And thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other items that you think need to be, you know, either repositioned or you don't see? Okay. All righty. Seeing there are no more comments on that, Gavin, do you want to go to the next part of the agenda, which would be the budget update? Is that appropriate?
I'll comment on your earlier item, and that is, I think these priorities should be discussed with the various committees and taken into consideration. And in some cases, that may have been done. In some cases, it may not. So I want to make sure that before we publish, priorities and actions, that the various committees that we've identified as working for the benefit of the village are included in those conversations.
Certainly will.
Thank you.
And I guess I have I don't even know if it's a question or a comment, but, and Gavin, it started with you. I believe that, getting the right people to help board and the community, we're the mouthpiece for the community. And then you are, between you and Chief Walsh and Joe, you guys and your various input into what you need to bring this community and this village to the right level of competence, modernization, whatever, fill in the name here. But again, I think the hires have been tremendous. Bringing in Eve, bringing in, Brian that we met the other day, you getting Daniel in here, I mean, that's kind of been very key. So whether it's, being on candidate 5 for the lateral move with the police, and are we on the right level there? I don't know what box or what column this fits into, but I think a big concern is obviously the staffing. And what input would you need, Gavin, from us, the board, or, again, you've done a great job with this. Helia is leaving 5/24 of 24, as we know. She does a lot of things here, but I guess that would be the example of what input do you want from us to help you with that organizational structure that I think Matt's done some of that, Chief Walsh, Joe's definitely done some of that. You've kind of gotten the right people, and they're kind of in charge. This is what we need. So I feel like, are you getting what you need, and how can the board help you with that?
I'd say, yes, I am getting what I need, which is just you all letting me know what your expectations are, what your concerns are, and I've been getting plenty of that. And also, speaking of staffing, as I go through the process, my plan for the assistant to the administrator is to do a first round interview with some staff, myself, Helia, who this person will be taking on some of her, or helping with that transition and taking on some of what she does, because a lot of what she does isn't just accounts payable or putting together the financials on a monthly basis. She really has been instrumental in keeping the front office running and doing a lot of other tasks, some of which may or may not be in her job description, but she's willing to pitch in. So my hope is that in that process we'll identify somebody that can take on some of those tasks as well as provide leadership. But as I narrow that pool down, I would like them to meet some of the elected officials and have you all, take them through the process and look for the right fit and the right set of skills. So that's one way that I think you all could help me.
Any other thoughts or comments? Y'all good? All righty, then go on to the budget.
So I just wanted to make a very summary few points about our budget picture, and we'll talk about this more at the Finance Committee on Monday. But based on our December numbers, which were shared with you all at the January board meeting, which is about which is 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year, and just focusing on the operating budget, because the capital budget is going to be fine, because we have a large amount of funds that are undesignated in the capital budget, some from ARPA funds, some from the sale of the property to the tollway, and some other funds that are set aside for Wolf Road, but that's quite a ways off. So we've talked a little about if we needed to, we would have access to those funds. And all of those should be in capital because they're one-time revenues that shouldn't be used for operating expenditures. So setting the capital budget aside, we're about 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. Our budgeted revenues right around 62% of what was budgeted, our actuals compared to the budget. And it looks like we're going to collect it, what we had budgeted for revenues, because property tax, the second installment of property taxes will be coming in. They're due March 1st, and that's a big chunk of what we had budgeted for revenue. On the expenditure side, we're about 64% of what we had budgeted, and so that's less than 2/3, and it doesn't look like, looking through all of our expenditures, there's only a couple spots I'm concerned about, and one of those Matt had mentioned. We had staffing issues in the police department, which is part of the reason that the overtime budget is actually it's going to be over at the end of the year. We know that for a fact. It actually already is over the annual budget. But again, Matt's addressing that. And then plan review is another area where it looks like we're going to exceed the budget, but we can control that. As I mentioned, things have really slowed down in that area. Overall, the budget picture is fine. Helia has really been keeping an eye on, and the Finance Committee has been keeping an eye on our cash flow. We look at those reports every month and have looked at that. And again, we always have the option of increasing our liquidity by financing the rest of the work on the pump house. And because the board approved the reimbursement resolution, we'll be able to reimburse ourselves in the event that we do finance. We'll be able to reimburse ourselves for some of the costs we've already realized. So I just wanted to let you know things are okay in the budget. That's what I had to say on that. Just that we're reviewing, auditing, if you will, our revenues that come through the state to make sure that we're getting everything that is due to us. We have signed an agreement with a company called Azavar who will do that audit for us and go through all of our utility taxes and our all of our local taxes and make sure that we are getting, that all of the addresses that should be coming, the payments that should be coming to Indian Head Park are coming to Indian Head Park. Of course, they get a cut of that, but even if we only recover a part of that, it's more than we're getting right now. It may be the case that they don't find anything that we're missing out on, and then we can know that we are getting everything that's due to us. So it's a positive. And we're also just reviewing all of even the ones that they don't review, just to make sure that we are getting what we should be, so that we're not missing out on any revenues. And the chief and Eve are working on, they found the local debt recovery program through the state comptroller's office that will also make sure that we're getting all the collections on parking tickets, ordinance violations, traffic fines, court fines, administrative judgments, etc. So, and it's free, even better. So, and then another revenue item, and it's the next on the agenda. Do you want to tell me to go to that, or
Sure.
can I just go there?
Go for it.
Just that there are some other grants that we didn't necessarily talk about in the presentation that we're exploring with the help of Lexipol. And in the general area, and you know, they've done some research on police grants, and I know Matt's looking at some of those. But also on the non-police side, there is an AARP Community Challenge grant, and we've asked Lexipol to gather more information to find out if that's an appropriate opportunity for us. It's really focused on civic engagement, which we have talked about tonight. It's also focused on public spaces. And the goal of the program is to make communities livable for people of all ages. We're looking at state grants. The Illinois Parks and Recreational Facilities Construction Grant is something that, if we are able to get that, would help us with reconstruction at Sacagawea Park at the playground. There's also an OSLAD grant that comes up every year. It was due right after I started last year, but we can apply for it this year, and that would also help with some parks improvements. There's an Illinois Emergency Management Agency grant that would provide technical assistance for the adoption of the International Building Code and the IRC, which is another code. The property standards code that I can't remember what the R stands for. I apologize. And then there's federal grants from the U.S. Forest Service for community forest programs, and there are some urban forest program grants that we're looking into. Don't know yet if we're going to apply for those, but the message is, the point I want you to take away from this is that we are turning over every stone, looking behind every tree, and trying to find revenues that so we're not just relying on property taxes.
Go for it. Keep rolling.
So I am in the process, or we are in the process of developing a comprehensive calendar for the board, so that one of the goals of that would be so that we don't miss any deadlines for things like the most recent example is, we didn't recognize Arbor Day until November when it should have been recognized back in April. So I don't want to miss Arbor Day again. But there are other examples, some statutory requirements that we have to meet, and I want those to be out there, transparent, and have everybody know that that's what's coming up, and that it's going to have. We're going to do this task at this board meeting, that level of detail, and it's going to include committee meetings and all of the meetings that are important to the business of the village. And I think it'll be helpful. It'll be helpful for the community, and it'll be certainly helpful for the staff as we try to up our game when it comes to communicating and letting the community what's going on at the village. So that's a work in progress.
Any questions on the calendar or the grant opportunities? That we didn't field any questions on that. Alrighty, seeing none, it is now time in our meeting where we can take public comments. I don't see anyone here, and I don't think we... Did we get any emails or any questions from any of our residents?
No, ma'am.
Alrighty. Seeing that there are no public comments, I think we could get a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting. I'll second it.
8:01. At 8:01, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.